Welcome to this bonus study skills video. I'm going to address some common misconceptions around study. It's often easier to illustrate what you should do by identifying the things that you shouldn't. Highlighters, beloved of the student studying or the student revising. Simply highlighting notes or highlighting passages from a book is not going to help you remember things. Highlighting as part of your presentation to pick information out in your notes can be very beneficial, but simply sitting there and robotically highlighting things is not going to help you remember things in the long term. Copying information from existing notes, from websites, or from textbooks exactly as it is written is not going to help you secure information and knowledge in your long-term memory. It feels like you're doing something useful, but you're really not. You're wasting your time, actually. It's harmful because you're wasting your time. You're doing something where you could be doing something much different that would be much more effective. Beautiful notes. Your study notes, your revision notes, they don't need to be beautiful. You're not creating a product when you're studying. You're not creating something to share with anyone else. The aim, the intention with study and revision is to be able to remember more long term. So therefore, spending time making notes look beautiful or feeling like your notes aren't good enough because they're not beautiful, it's irrelevant. It's not of benefit. The goal is to remember more long term. I often say to my classes, you can discard the notes, discard the study notes. If you've done a blank sheet, if you've done some practice questions, if you've done a concept map, what counts is the thinking that's happened. It's not the piece of paper. Often students can think that cramming is the same as revising. So filling your head with information in the day or two before an assessment. Look, it might help you remember things in the short term better than if you hadn't done it, but longer term, this technique does not work. Okay, cramming is not helpful for remembering information long term. It makes you more tired. It will not make you perform better in exam situations. The techniques that we advocate as part of the study skills are difficult. They're harder. You might feel less successful when you're doing them, but they are proven to be much more effective at helping you to remember things longer term. So things like highlighting or copying feel easy. They make you feel like you're being successful, but actually you're going to be less successful longer term. If your study is difficult, that is a good sign. You need to do things that make you think, things that are difficult. It's not purely about putting in the hours. So spending 8 hours cramming the night before the exam is not necessarily a helpful thing to do. What it is about is making the time that you have effective. So doing little and often, short bursts of study and revision over time is much more effective than massive cramming sessions where your brain gets tired and you just become less effective over time. So it's not about doing volume. This image is an attempt to represent blocking here. Often people think that it's a good idea to bunch all of similar topics up and revise them together at the same time. The evidence does not suggest that this is effective. You really should mix up your topics. So, for example, in design and technology, it would not necessarily be a good idea to revise or study all of the materials all in one go. It would be a good idea to mix up one type of material and then a different topic area in design and technology, for example, user-centered design, but to mix up different topics, okay? Don't necessarily block all of the similar topics together. So what should you do? Well, you should space out your practice, study little and often. Half an hour, 45-minute study sessions are most effective, and do that every day. You should interleave, so mix up your topics so that you can help form and cement those links between the different topics in your subject areas. And retrieval practice, always work from memory. Working from memory is difficult, but when you're studying, difficult is good.